Hello everyone, welcome back to Chronicle IAS Academy. My name is Saloni Nankyoliar and I welcome you to the third lecture of our policy analysis series where each week we are picking up one topic of public policy and covering it thoroughly. So the topic for today's discussion is RBI's policy shift, how RBI's decision shape India's growth. Okay, so have you ever wondered why our loan rates change or why the food prices they rise and fall? So Reserve Bank of India through its monetary policy controls these key economic factors, and this area is also a favorite topic for UPSC prelims and mains examination, where UPSC constantly asks us about the inflation control and monetary policy and what is the role of RBI in stabilizing India's economy. And in this video we are going to cover exactly those points. So let's get started. Okay, so let us begin by understanding what is monetary policy. So monetary policy, it is a strategy that is employed by the nation's central bank to regulate the money supply within the economy. So monetary policy, it is a policy that is released by the Reserve Bank of India every 2 months, and this policy basically targets inflation control, price rise and loan rate changes and everything of that sort. And this basically is introduced by the Monetary Policy Committee or MPC, and this Monetary Policy Committee is a committee of 6 members. So these 6 members, this has equal representation from the RBI and the government, which means 3 members are from RBI and 3 members are from the Government of India, and they meet every 2 months to decide what our loan rates, what our policy rates should be depending upon the country's current economic situation. So monetary policy, it is of 2 types, expansionary monetary policy and contractionary monetary policy. Let's understand both of these one by one. So expansionary monetary policy, this comes into picture when when the RBI wants to inject more money in the economy. So this is basically done to tackle any slowdown, any recession or high rates of unemployment that are present in the economy. So if there's a slowdown, if there's a recession, if the economy is not growing as per good growth rates, then the RBI introduces policy cuts where more money is injected into the economy and economic growth is stimulated. So some key tools are used to achieve this state. First one is lowering interest rates or repo rate cut. This is the most important tool that RBI has within its kitty. It's called the repo rate, and repo rate is the rate at which the banks they can borrow money from RBI. So if the repo rate is decreased, which means banks can borrow more money from RBI, it can borrow money at a lower rate of interest, and these banks are in turn encouraged to lend or loan more money into the general public. So when the repo rates are decreased, the lending requirements, the lending rate of interest are decreased, and banks can lend more money to the public, to the business owners, to the production owners, and this can stimulate the economic growth that we're looking to achieve. Then the RBI reduces reserve requirements, CRR and SLR. So these are 2 very important terms. CRR is the cash reserve ratio, cash reserve ratio, and SLR is statutory liquidity ratio. Okay. So cash reserve ratio, as the name suggests, it is the amount of net demand and time liabilities that the banks need to keep in the form of cash with the RBI. So let's understand it like this. So a bank, it has net demand and time liabilities. So demand is your CASA, current account, savings account, and time liabilities are fixed deposits, recurring deposits, anything basically that is bound by a certain time interval. So bank have these net demand and time liabilities in the form of deposits, and banks need to keep a certain percentage of this deposit in the form of cash with the RBI. So for example, hypothetically, if the CRR is 4% and banks have 100 rupees in their deposit, so bank would need to keep 4% in cash. So rupees 4 would be kept in the form of cash with the RBI, and the remaining 96% can be loaned to the general public in an ideal scenario. However, there are more reserve regulations that come into picture. So this is the case of cash reserve ratio. Now, and no interest is basically paid on these reserves, the cash that is kept with the RBI. RBI does not offer any interest on these reserves, just to discourage banks from keeping more and more in the form of reserve requirements with the RBI. And then you have your statutory liquidity ratio. This is the percentage, the minimum percentage of net demand and time liabilities that banks need to keep with themselves in the form of cash, gold, or government securities, anything. So it's not restricted just to cash, and this is not something that needs to be kept with the RBI. This needs to be maintained by the banks within their own vaults, but this is also done. So both these, basically SLR and CRR, both are introduced to act as shock absorbers in the time of financial crisis. So if the SLR is hypothetically, if it's 18%, so our CRR was 4%, our SLR is 18%. So out of the 100 rupees, banks need to keep 4 rupees with the RBI, 18 rupees with themselves, and the remaining 78 rupees can be loaned to the general public. So now understand, if there's an expansionary monetary policy and these repo rates and these reserve requirements have been decreased, which means 4% has been moved to 3%, 18% has been moved to 17%, that means the government, the banks, they have more money at their disposal, and that can be loaned to the general public. Okay. All right. Then there are also open market purchases. So open market purchases, these are things, or open market operations, they are of two types: buying government securities and selling government securities. So RBI, as per the requirement, either buys government securities from the banks and public, or sells government securities to either inject money or withdraw money from the economy. So if we are following an expansionary monetary policy, means we want the public to have more money, we want banks to have more money. In that way, in that scenario, we are going to buy the government securities from them. So when we buy something from the government, from the banks or from the general public, we are going to give them money in return, which is going to inject more money into the economy, and our purpose would be served. So this increase, the open market purchases, they buy government securities, and what is the effect of all these things? It increases borrowing, spending, investment, leading to higher demand and employment, because now the business owners, the entrepreneurs, anybody, basically they'll have more money at their disposal. They could loan more money, and then they could create more jobs, they would increase the employment, they could invest more, and ultimately all of this would lead to higher economic growth. All right. Next, there is another policy which is a contractionary monetary policy, and this is the exact opposite of the expansionary monetary policy. In contractionary monetary policy, we want to withdraw the excess money that is there in the economy to control the inflation. So there is a lot of money that's there in the economy, a lot of liquidity in the economy, and this has led to higher levels of price rise. So when we want to curb that, when we want to tackle inflation, we follow a contractionary monetary policy. So this is used to control inflation by reducing the money supply. It is used when the inflation is high, causing high price instability. And what are we going to do in this? What are the tools? The exact opposite of expansionary. We're going to increase the rates, interest rates. There would be a repo rate hike, which will discourage the banks to borrow more and in turn lend more money to the general public. We're going to increase the reserve requirements. We're going to increase the CRR and SLR, which will leave lesser money with the banks at their disposal, and in turn lesser money would be available to be loaned to the general public. And in open market operations, we're going to sell government securities. So when we sell government securities, we're going to take money from the economy, we're going to withdraw that money, and in turn curb the inflation that's there in picture. Okay, so I hope the types of monetary policy are clear. Okay. Now, let's understand what is India's current economic situation, and then we'll dive into the steps that have been taken by RBI to deal with these challenges. So, according to the Economic Survey of 24-25, India's GDP growth, it dropped from 8.2% in 2024 to 6.3% in 2025. So, some potential causes of this could be the global economic slowdown that we are facing, and some fiscal consolidation efforts that the government takes, where it reduces its expenditure, and which in the long run leads to a slower economic growth. Then there is a high inflation. Inflation hit 7.4% in 2023, making our essentials more expensive. So this 7.4% is a lot more than the 2 to 6% bracket which has been kept by the RBI. So the RBI is mandated to maintain the inflation rates between 2% to 6%. Anything below this is also bad, and anything above this is also bad. So 7.4% is a very high rate of inflation that the country is facing, making our essentials more expensive. Then we have the bank liquidity issues. Banks weren't lending enough, which is slowing down business expansion. So if the banks are not going to lend more, the business owners, the entrepreneurs, or the marginalized section of the economy, they will not be able to borrow more money and build their own startups or businesses or production units, anything, which in turn will lead to an economic slowdown. And then there is a rupee volatility that our rupee is facing right now, our currency is facing right now. So the Indian rupee, it hit an all-time low of 87.95 against the US dollar on 14 February 2025. So this makes our imports expensive. Let's understand with the help of an example. If we have the exchange rate as $1 is 80 rupees, that means, and let's think from an export perspective. So if import perspective, if I had to import something from the US and the price of that product was $1 earlier, if I had 80 rupees in my pocket, I would be able to purchase that product from the US. But now if the rupee depreciates and my exchange rate comes down to $1 is 87 rupees, and the price of the product still remains the same. So the same product is available at $1, but now I will have to spend 87 rupees to purchase the exact same product. So my imports, they become expensive. So this is the current situation, the current economic situation that our country is facing. And now let's understand what changes or what steps RBI took to tackle these. Okay, so RBI's key monetary policy changes. First one was a repo rate cut. We already understood that it reduced the repo rate from 6.5% to 6.25%, making loans cheaper. So we understood what happens when the policy rates are decreased. Policy rates are decreased, that means that banks can borrow more money from the RBI at cheaper rate of interest. So that means banks will have more money at their disposal, and then they can loan more to the general public. So a simple cut of from 6.5 to 6.25 has made our loans cheaper. There were CRR and SLR adjustments. Our reserve requirements were adjusted, and the CRR was lowered to 4% and SLR was reduced to 17.5%, increasing lending capacity. So this is also something that we discussed in the initial slides, that now banks are required to keep lesser amount of money in the form of reserves, and they could loan more money to the general public. Then through open market operations, RBI injected, so this is an expansionary monetary policy that RBI is following. This, I think you can understand that, right? Because we have cut the repo rate, we have made CRR, SLR adjustments, we have reduced those also. And in the open market operations, we are buying government bonds, which means we are following an expansionary monetary policy. We want more money to be injected into our economy. So RBI injected 75,000 crore liquidity by buying government bonds. And then there was a forex market intervention. So RBI maintains foreign exchange reserves with itself. It keeps dollars with itself, and when a very high amount of volatility is experienced in the economy, where our rupee is depreciating a lot in comparison to the US dollars, RBI injects dollars into the economy to stabilize the rupee against the dollar. So if you inject more of something, more of a currency into the economy, it will no longer be in shortage. There will be an abundance in the supply, and when the supply of something is increased, the price automatically decreases, and in this case the value of US dollars was decreased. Okay, so how does this affect the common man? How does it affect you, me, and everybody else, every other citizen in the country? So yeah, it made our loans cheaper, so we can now get easier home loan, car loan, business loans with lower EMIs. We can, so if I want to start my business today, I could get cheaper loans, I could get loans at lower rate of interest, and then I could invest more into my business. Then there are more jobs and economic growth. So lower lending rates, they lead to business expansion, more hiring, more job creation. So if I'm producing more of something, I would need more manpower in my company. I'll hire more people. This in turn is going to create more employment, more jobs, and our economy is going to boost. Inflation control. So stable prices for food, fuel and essentials. So let's understand it this way. So inflation can be caused due to two types of factors. There are supply side factors and then there are demand side factors. So supply side inflation is when the supply of something is decreased but the demand remains the same. So if the supply of something is decreased but the demand is still the same and it's not coming, it's not there in the market, the prices are automatically going to go up. Like we see that regularly with our food products, like onion prices, tomato prices. Why do they hike? Because they're not in supply, so they're not being produced that much. Just an example. So if this inflation has been caused due to supply side factors, having an expansionary monetary policy can actually solve this. So let's say the supply of something has decreased. It might have decreased because the production costs had increased. The input cost or the raw materials for producing that product, the price of the raw materials had increased, and maybe I was a business owner, I did not have enough money, to invest in my in the production costs or in the raw material cost. So I reduced my supply because I was not having that ample amount of money. So when I reduced the supply but the demand in the market remained the same, my product will now be being sold at inflated prices. So if this inflation is due to supply side factors, when we have an expansionary monetary policy, people will have more money to borrow, people will have more money to invest. So we will be able to invest more into our production cost, into our raw materials, and then stabilize the supply and demand for that product. Okay. And then this also leads to a stable rupee. So it makes such imports cheaper. We already discussed, if the rupee is depreciated in comparison to the US dollars, our imports become expensive. But when we balance that out, when we balance the stability between the dollar and the rupee, this can lead to cheaper imports of gadgets, fuels, machines, medicines and other essential items. Okay. All right, so all the good talks, but then there are also some challenges and risks that are associated with expansionary monetary policy that RBI has now brought into picture. And the first and the foremost challenge is the inflation risk. So whenever you inject a lot of money into the economy, there is a direct chance of inflation. So the price, because everybody now has money, so the money supply in the economy has increased, there will be more demand for things, and the price for essential products or even non-essential products, everything is basically going to rise up. So inflation risk is caused when there is too much liquidity in the economy. Then there is a banking sector risk, when the banks, they have a lot of money at their disposal and they want to keep lending more money. It could lead to NPAs increasing, non-performing assets increasing, defaulters increasing if there are not enough background checks done, or we're lending money to everybody, but everybody might not have the capacity to pay us back. So this can lead to increase in defaults and it could create a financial crisis. Then the foreign investment could decline. So let's understand it like this. So when the price of our, or when the interest rates they go down, the yield of the bond, it also reduces. So yield is basically the profit that we earn when we purchase a bond, and it's directly related to the interest rates. So if the interest rate they go down, which means the yield of the bond or the profit that the bond is going to provide us is going to decrease. So if that happens, people will not be motivated enough to invest in our economy. They will not want to buy our bonds. Instead, they would want to move to markets where the bonds are having higher yields. They are giving them more profits because the interest rates are higher. Okay. And then there is a global uncertainty that we need to be cognizant about. The US interest rate hikes could lead to capital flight from markets. So this is also related to this thing. If the US market, it's offering higher rate of interests and India is offering lower rates of interest, any investor would be drawn more towards the US rate of interest because it is going to get more yield on its bond. Okay. But what is the road ahead? What is next for India's economy? There are challenges, but those are not challenges that cannot be tackled. So what are the steps that India can take? India can make gradual rate adjustments. It can balance growth and inflation. So we already discussed that more money will definitely stimulate our growth, but it could also lead to higher inflation rates. So India needs to balance its growth and inflation by by adjusting these rates gradually. So any drastic change in the rates could mean drastic results, and that's not the case that India needs to follow. The banks need to monitor their NPAs and bank lending. NPAs are the non-performing assets. So banks, need to avoid giving reckless loans just for the sake of it. They need to do a thorough background check. They need to understand the repaying capacity of the customers and then ration their loans accordingly in order to decrease the defaults and the non-performing assets in the balance book of the banks. Then India needs to strengthen the forest reserves. So we already discussed that rupee and US dollars, they are facing a very high amount of volatility. So to curb that, India needs to balance its forex reserves. It needs to have more US dollars in its kitty so that at the time of need, when we want to follow an expansionary monetary policy or when we want to save our rupee from being depreciated, we can inject the US dollars into economy. And then RBI, we need to enhance the RBI government coordination. So we discussed that MPC, or the Monetary Policy Committee, it consists of 6 members and 3 each from both these pillars, 3 from the RBI and 3 from the government. So these people and even other people within the RBI and the government, they need to come together, they need to collaborate and enhance their coordination so that they need to align the monetary and fiscal policies accordingly. So monetary policy is associated with RBI and fiscal policy is associated with the government. Both these policies need to be in tandem, they need to work together for our economy to grow and sustain in a good way. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this lecture. Thank you for sitting through, and I hope you were able to understand the monetary policy, its types, and what role RBI plays in shaping the economy of the country. Now, what you see on screen is a question. It's just a MCQ practice for your UPSC prelims. Please take some time and reflect upon what you learned today and answer this question. We'll reveal the correct answer in the next video. And until we meet the next time, please keep studying and keep analyzing. Thank you.